Save It for the Blind is sponsored by Tetra Hearing. Tetra Hearing isn't just hearing protection, it's hearing perfection. Kershaw Knives. Kershaw manufactures next-level pocket knives for outdoor enthusiasts. Save It for the Blind is now also being sponsored by Roseville Motorsports. Roseville Motorsports is the greater Sacramento area's premier destination for all your power sports vehicle needs. Stop in today to browse off-road vehicles from leading manufacturers like Polaris, Yamaha, and more. Rig 'em right, heavily seasoned gear for the die-hard waterfowl hunter. If you guys are enjoying the show, we'd love to hear from you and get your support. Please follow us on your favorite podcast platform. Give us a 5-star rating. Your reviews really help us grow and reach more people. Thank you for being a part of our community.
Welcome back to Save for the Blind podcast. We have 3 awesome guests today. We're going to be talking about the refuges that they manage. We have Southern California, we have San Jacinto, Wister, and then we're going to come up to Yolo Refuge and then go down to San Luis, which is going to be our grasslands. You're going to be hearing it from the refuge managers, what's going on down there, waterfowl projects, waterfowl numbers, and what to look forward to for this coming duck season. Hope you enjoyed the episode. What's it like down there, weather-wise?
Weather-wise, it's going to be a bluebird day. We've had clear skies and blue skies and 80-degree weather. So the opener is going to be just that. We're expecting some weather to change come Monday, Tuesday, and so the first Wednesday should be pretty productive as it's supposed to dip into the 50s and 60s, and we should have some wind from up north. So hopefully they'll start moving some things around.
Awesome. Well, we're back to Save It for the Blind podcast. I'm Jeff Smith here with Carson Odegaard and Brian Huber. Our guest today is Scott Sewell, works for the California Department of Fish and Wildlife as a senior supervisor, primarily at San Jacinto Wildlife Area and Wister. But thanks for coming on. Just kind of wanted to do a recap right before kind of duck season, what hunters should kind of expect from the region. Having been down there, not necessarily during duck season, but I mean, in terms of duck numbers, San Jacinto, Wister, and very high producing averages for duck hunters down there. And I know some of our hunters that come up, huge fan favorites of Wister, and a lot of CWA projects, wetland projects have been going on both wildlife areas. Can you kind of touch on that a little bit and kind of what our involvement has been with you in particular?
Yeah, sure. I started with the department back in '98, but I met some people from CWA back then, and specifically a young gentleman named Chad Santier. And him and I became friends for quite some time. And even though I was doing a lot of upland work in Region 5, I took the role as a Soup 1 at San Jacinto in 2005, where we started our first project there in 2007. And since then, between 2007 and 2024, between both wildlife areas and including Palo Verde on the Colorado River, I think him and I have done probably, I'm going to guesstimate $12 to $15 million worth of work.
Wow.
In our tenure together. I've done a tremendous amount of work at Imperial Wildlife Area, the first projects ever at San Jacinto Wildlife Area, the first projects at Palo Verde have been completed over the years. We're looking at a few more projects coming up. We've already gone for funding, and it's looking pretty good. So over the years, we've had a great successful relationship with CWA, and primarily CWA is our go-to NGO for these types of enhancements, creations, and wildlife restorations.
Now, are a lot of these projects, are they in closed areas? Are they open to hunters? Do you have some type of percentage of what hunters and outdoor enthusiasts are actually able to go see and step foot on?
Yeah, I can tell you that 100% of what we've worked on is associated with hunting. The only places where it's a closed zone within the interior of the wildlife areas at Wister when we did some work on Y14. But besides that, everything else, San Jacinto and Imperial, 100% of it is for wetland management for the waterfowl season and public hunter opportunity.
That's great.
Are there going to be any big changes or updates this year for your refuges that you manage that users should be aware of for this
Yes, and thank you. If I can back up real quick, just first and foremost say thank you very much, gentlemen, for having me on today. Much appreciated. I heard this was coming down, and I was happy to be part of it. And as the season progresses, would love to come back on and give you some updates if need be. But education is a tool. I created a San Jacinto and Imperial Wildlife Area news and update email thread that has started off with a handful of volunteers that has now successfully blossomed into about 500 to 600 email addresses it hits.
Nice.
And so some of you at CWA do receive the email. And it's really nice to be able to reach out and touch the public, because this way they know what we're doing. It's a better relationship between us and the public. So getting back to your question you just asked, I did send out an email, an update for the final week prior to the season, which had a bunch of maps on there for the public to look at and review. A few changes in the rules, no changes to regulations this year when it comes to our wildlife areas proper. But it's been a good, successful preseason. When they show up on opening day, there's a few things they'll need to know, and that will be within the maps themselves. At Wister, we've got a couple of units that we reconfigured with CWA's help, and they weren't so much. They were already created. It was more of a restoration and more of an enhancement projects. So we had the opportunity to move some blinds around and to make some better open water and some more elbow room, if you will. So that's been really good. And San Jacinto, fantastic work done there as well by staff. One of the noticeable improvements will be the feed that was provided this year. We were very, very thankful and successful in retaining and getting a whole bunch of new seed. It's always been easy to get the seed contract people on board. It's always been a problem with procurement. So, and it's not that we have a failed system, it's just the fact that it takes so long to get anything procured. So by the time we do the contract, we put the PO in place, and we finally get things going, it takes a while. Well, this year I was able to tap into a couple different resources, which were kind of thinking outside the box, if you will, but biodiversity funds came through for us, which was pretty neat. And then the ground nesting program the incentive program just came into play. And this is how fast it worked. We worked with people in Sacramento through our department, identified what we needed and wanted. We identified our nonprofit who would be getting it for us. And within 2 weeks, they showed up yesterday at 8 a.m. saying we got 15,000 pounds of seed for you. So when I got the call from Chad with you guys saying that it was all ready to go, it blew me away, because normally my contracts take anywhere from a month to 3 months to get that into ownership.
Wow. And when you're talking about seed, is it swamp timothy, watergrass, smartweed? What are you guys planting down there?
So for the most part down here, we did a lot of wheat and millet.
Okay.
So nice. The wheat was more for the nesting incentive program, whereas the millet was all obviously planted for waterfowl for production, for food production. Our swamp timothy we're very lucky that we have very alkali-rich soils down here, and as timothy is inherent within the soils. So with that being said, it's a very easy vegetative species to manage. Very simple. Mm-hmm. So we just redistribute the seeds every 5-6 years and break them up and move them around and keep them within the same seed bank of the unit. But besides that, we've had fantastic growth down here. Millet loves it. They're really those salt-rich environment plant species that just thrive, and thankfully the ducks like them too.
Hey Scott, what's the max capacity for hunters on San Jacinto and on Wister? And are you guys going to be at capacity at opening day, or is that something you won't get to full capacity until a month in the season?
Well, you would be surprised. The parking lot looks like something like no else on opening day. That'll be wall-to-wall cars and people. It'll be 500-600 people in the parking lots at each place. We'll be at capacity. So we have 100 regular reservations, and 5 handicap at Wister, and San Jacinto does 50 regular and 2 handicap. And normally and historically down here, with opening day and usually the holidays and the close of the season, we see pretty high numbers in the reservation show-ups. But by and large, we're about a 30% show-up rate on reservations. Our sweat lines will refill the rest. Wister, I don't know if we'll get all spots filled, because even though we draw 100, we have almost 160 blinds.
Oh wow!
So it's a lot. And that also comes with its own consequences. When you open up that many blinds and you manage that large of a wetland unit, you go into issues with water, holding water, make sure your water levels are right, water management itself is right, conveyance issues, blowouts, washouts. I mean, it just happens in that type of surrounding. But so to get back to your question, we will probably be at max capacity. Last year and the year before, San Jacinto was at capacity almost more times than it wasn't throughout the year. Wow. Unfortunately, we are facing urban encroachment down here. Everywhere around here wants to build. People from Orange County and the west of us all want to get out of the city, and they all want to come build homes and neighborhoods out here. And we're slowly but surely just getting pushed more and more into a city park environment, which is a real bummer. But in the meantime, we're continuing to fight the fight and have our open space.
Have you guys had any issues with those new communities complaining about, hunting season noises or any of that yet?
So thankfully, no. The latest proposal that has gone through the specific plan and general plan is now headed for construction. We will have that problem. They said they'll be breaking ground within the first 5 years. It's been over 5 years. We hope they don't build at all, but at that point, it'll be really close to the southern border of San Jacinto Wildlife Area, which we've been fighting off for a long time, and we'll continue to fight it off the best we can, so we can continue what we do.
And you mentioned you guys have upwards of 100 blinds or whatnot. Do you guys manage those through volunteers pre-season, or how are you guys managing all those blinds and brushing them up or cleaning them out? Do you guys need help? And if you do, how do hunters get involved?
That's a great question. Thank you. So we at San Jacinto, it's a little different than Imperial. So Wister, where we have literally 160 blinds, we don't have them all set up blinds ready to go. For the most part, the hunters over the years, starting back in 1954, have always kind of built their own blinds and brought their own blind material or have their own cover of some sort. So where we do have areas that have been recently worked on, and there is more moonscaping, if you will, there will be less material for them to use. They'll bring their own in. And where we do have a heavy set of growth, they find their way and make their own setup within the growth itself. As San Jacinto, the majority of the 50 blinds are already structures that are in there. Then most of them are hog wire blinds. Only a couple pit blinds remain, and they hunt from the blind area, with the exception of a couple space blinds. And how do we manage it? Well, we get out and do it. When we do it with the help of a lot of volunteers that want to come out, Imperial is getting more and more involved with the volunteer program, where San Jacinto has been very hip on the volunteer program for many years. This last year, I think we had 4 blind brush up days. I carved out a piece of our budget for both wildlife areas so that we actually buy the materials ahead of time, and we have them at our shops. So when we have people come in, even on off days, they show up ahead of time and say, "Hey, Scott, we're going to come down. I got 3 or 4 guys. We're going to work on a couple of blinds." We already have T-stakes, hog wire, balin wire, everything ready to go. And we have some really dedicated and awesome volunteers that come out and do the work. And they're just a godsend to help us.
That's phenomenal. You need all the help you can get, especially with that large of a place and blinds. And like I said, you guys have some of the higher bird averages throughout the state. So keep it up.
For the opener, what kind of birds would hunters be expecting to harvest down there?
Well, I'd love to tell everybody you can shoot 7 mallards, but
that's going to be tough.
That's just not what's going to happen.
Unless you're in a different state.
You might walk out with 7 spoons. I don't know, but I really think that right at San Jacinto, we are seeing a higher concentration of mallards still. Last year, before I go down to the Wisters, last year was phenomenal. For some reason, last year we had more mallard take throughout the season than ever before. We've always had good mallard take. I mean, it's always been a good number for us. But normally the gadwall really screams up there. Obviously, our number 1 birds is green-winged teal and spoonies. And same with Wister for the most part, but they do have a big influence of cinnamons, and they had a huge influence of gadwall. But we had such a heavy influence of mallard this last year. It was really neat. I mean, it was really cool to see. So yes, there will be a lot of mallards down there. Today, I think we kicked up a couple hundred teal. They were screaming around at about 50 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. And down at Wister, it's been a pretty good size grab bag. A lot of gadwall, spoons, cinnamon teal, and mallard, but definitely a bigger grab bag down there.
Are you seeing more birds down there early in the season than you have in the past? We have a property in the Tulare Basin that we're seeing more birds at than we normally see.
You know, there's a fine art to management of early flood up versus, poorly planned flood up.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to know what you're doing when it comes to the aspect of you put water out too early and you might catch some birds, but you've also just grown 8-foot tall tules and you just choked out an entire pond. Even if you get in there and disk that pond 7 or 8 times, and we have some pretty hot summer days down here, and if you have that root mass, that biomass exposed for a good 30, 35 days, you think you would do some damage to that root mass. But you splash some water on it, and they're 3 feet before you know it. So you got to know kind of where you're going, what you're doing, where to put the water, where you can get the water above the cattail head to suppress and retard their growth. We do have been seeing a good size influence of birds. A few years ago, it was absolutely horrible. We had terrible migration. It was terrible. And we just didn't get the birds till later in the season. A lot of us at the wildlife area industry usually call November Slowvember for a reason. That's because November seems to really taper off for us. But this past few years, we've seen a pretty good rise in numbers in the beginning of the season, catching a lot of the early migratory birds. See a lot of blue wing come through, and then they whistle on by and take off down to Wister. But we see a lot of birds coming through early with the right areas flooded up. And the thing about getting it flooded up early is got to get the food out there. So you first got to manage the pond early, which upsets people who don't want to see ponds dry because they want to take pictures on their horse or whatever in front of the pond. So you have to manage that appropriately, but you want to make sure you have food in there. So the birds come, they're going to be tired. They're going to want to rest, but they're going to want to eat.
Yeah.
And so water is a detractant they can see from 5 miles in the sky, but they're going to get, when they get down there, they're going to have fork and knife in hand.
And Scott, do you guys work with any of the private landowners around each of the refuges on anything like water delivery, or is it all contained to the refuge itself?
That has been an issue and a challenge at both wildlife areas since the day it began. They're both separate. Imperial, it's an open ditch irrigation system that comes from the Imperial Irrigation District, and we are the furthest west before you hit the Salton Sea when it comes to all the agricultural production areas. So the water flows to us last, and we have water earmarked to us through canals. But that doesn't stop people upriver, upstream taking it. They'll get charged for it, but they'll still take a volume of water. Mm-hmm. And as you guys well know, if you have a large pond, 400 or 500 acres, and you're just trickling water out, you're not going to make it in time or even grow a good crop. Versus San Jacinto, we are on pressurized pipe delivery from the Reclaimed Water Service. And that water, of course, in the summer, it's going to be low pressure because it's in high demand and every farmer wants it out there. So you got to work with your local partners and your constituents. And in my case, I happen to have conservation easements with the duck clubs that surround us. So we have an ability to have that conversation and make sure we're getting our water and they're getting their water so we can all be successful come the beginning of the season.
Well, I know you got to get going pretty quickly. You want to leave us with some final thoughts?
Yeah. Once again, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, guys. And, keep up the good work. You guys have joined a really good nonprofit organization that I've worked with for a couple of decades now. And I'm happy to call you guys my friends. And we've done a lot of good work and projects and programs within the years. And I would like to continue more of it. But most importantly, to all the hunters out there who are coming out, remember, it's hunting. Let's take our time. Let's enjoy it. Let's have some fun. Let's get our kids involved. Let's let them enjoy it. If there's a squabble, let's be parenting about it. Let's be grown-ups. Let's enjoy the day. Let's have some fun. Let's be productive. Let's help thin out some of those species we need knocked down, and let's have a good season.
Amen to that. Well, Scott, we appreciate you coming on. We'll get back to you later in the season for a mid-season checkup, but good luck this year, and thank you so much for everything that you're doing down there, and thank you for coming on today.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks,
have a good
Scott.
day.
All right, so we have Garrett Spaan, or he is the refuge manager at Yolo, fellow Wildcat. So appreciate you being on. Want to kind of get an update. You're new in the position, and just what's new at Yolo.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So what's going on? You're new into the position. What are some of the things that you've implemented there in your first year?
Yeah, so I started here October 16th last year. So this is my first year here, first field season. I'd say, one of the big things that we did this year that was probably a little bit different was we tried to do a lot more summer water. So we implemented a little bit more of a seasonal kind of summer water type of rotation, where we were emphasizing some of the nesting habitat that we do provide on the wildlife area. Yolo's big. It's almost 17,000 acres, and we have a lot of upland habitat intermixed with irrigated pasture and rice. So trying to take advantage of some of that upland nesting and try to put summer water in strategic locations to try to work on our local production. And I think we tried some things. Yolo's primarily ran off of lift stations, so we don't really have any surface water capabilities. So trying to find key wetland units that have good access close to those lift stations, close to those main deliveries, that we can maintain good water. And we tried some this year, and I think we had really good luck in a couple units. We had some that really didn't produce like we thought, or it was just a huge nightmare trying to maintain water in those ponds. And the ones that we did find that worked well, I think we'll get looped into that rotation. And then we got some other targets for future years. And then the other thing too was really trying to take advantage of our pretty good summer water availability with the lift stations, and trying to irrigate a little bit more, trying to diversify the habitat a little bit, flash irrigating Timothy, but also irrigating for watergrass. And we had some pretty good results in some of our units, and really trying to spread it apart. The management blocks are set up where you got wetlands on the north end, you got wetlands in the middle, and you got wetlands on the south end, and trying to spread out that and diversify that habitat throughout the wildlife area.
Now, are these units primarily in the hunt zone or close zone? What's the mix-up in terms of some of these units that might have some better waterfowl production coming this winter?
So both. We had one field in the Martins unit that's in the hunting area, great production, and then another one in the Martins that's in the sanctuary, but both fairly close to each other, but both had great production. The other unit that we tried to do is in the Four Risers area, and then also in Greens Lake. So those are both in the hunting area. So, those areas where we did do the summer water, you're going to see much thicker vegetation, some disking as well. The nice thing, it's not ideal for managing summer water, is because we have the lift pumps, we can't run the lift pumps, 24/7. So the water levels, they jump, they drop, they go up, they fluctuate a little bit, which isn't great for wetland management because we encourage a lot of cattail growth, joint grass, things like that. But by kind of bouncing that water around a little bit, we also germinated a lot of watergrass and smartweed. So in some of those summer wetlands where we generally don't produce a whole lot of moist soil for the wintering hunt season, by bouncing that water around a little bit, we actually did produce some pretty good food sources in those fields. So they should get pretty good winter use as well.
How was the nesting down there? Weren't you guys in part of the NB HIP nesting studies this year? And was there some good production in some of those fields?
They didn't drag any fields on Yolo this year.
Okay.
I'd say based on my observations, it was fantastic.
Good.
Like I said, we have a huge block of uplands, and I think the strategically located summer water, we could do really well from production standpoints. And we saw it both in pheasants and ducks.
What are you seeing on the landscape now? I think Yolo's pretty unique, where you guys have a pretty vast block of wild rice that's harvested and hunted or huntable. What are you guys kind of seeing on the landscape leading up to opener this weekend?
So I'd say a week ago, really good bird numbers. We were jam packed full of ducks. The big north wind came in. We're not holding quite as many as we were last week, but I think there's also a lot of fresh habitat coming on right now. So I think those birds are pretty well spread out. But we started the wild rice October 1st, and the immediate reaction to that flooding was incredible. I think we had about 20,000 ducks just in the wild rice. So, they hit that hard, and they're still in there. They kind of just bumped over from the seasonal wetlands and went into the wild rice. But all in all, I think we got good numbers of birds. A lot of green wings, a lot of pintail, widgeon, shovelers, good patches of mallards kind of here and there, hanging out in the wild rice and also in the watergrass. So it's looking pretty good. We had a good amount of specks in the rice up until about Friday last week. Still a few around, but not many geese.
Are there any big changes that the hunters might see at your refuge this year? Any units that are different looking or check-in procedures that might be different from what people are used to?
Yeah, so I'll start with habitat. So I'd say probably one of the biggest things hunters are going to see is in Greens Lake. So the unit just north of the four risers where the blinds stop and the free roam starts. That unit, which was primarily open water, Timothy in the past is primarily all watergrass. So it's a big unit. It's thick. There's some potholes out there, but if you hunted there in the past, you probably saw more tules and big open water. It's going to be primarily watergrass, smartweed. So it would be a little different. Bring a dog.
Want to send me the GPS pin to that?
So there's going to be a few units like that. There's two in the Mace. One that's historically, irrigated and managed as a watergrass unit. We have another unit right next to it as well. So there's a big block down in the Mace as well that's going to be pretty thick, heavy watergrass. And then from a check-in procedure, so we did implement a couple changes this year for check-in at the check station in the mornings. In the past, we do our reservations and then, give a 5-minute break after we were done and just roll right into lottery. So for this year, we are going to have, set times for reservations and lottery. So reservations are going to start 2.5 hours before shoot time. Once we finish, we'll pause, and then we'll start lottery an hour and a half before shoot time. So it'll be a set time. So we got a lot of, cluster at the check station in the morning. Most of the lottery hunters are showing up at the same time as the reservation hunters. It's not a very big lot. So this should hopefully kind of help with that, and then also standardize things a little bit more consistency for the hunters.
What time? Like when should the lotto guys start showing up so it's not so congested?
Again, give yourself a 15-minute, extra time, but I'd be there, an hour and 45 minutes. We should be done with reservations well before then. So give yourself a little time to get ready. But so that's something that's going to be new. And then the lottery procedures too. So in the past, Jeff, me and you were hunting together. I could show up, put you on my card, then you could go sign up and put me on your card.
Yeah.
So that's going away. So at this point, your name can only be in the lottery one time, whether you're on the first name on the card or you're the back of the card. It's one name per lottery. So that'll be a little bit of an adjustment this year. But again, thinking it's probably going to be the fairest approach.
So if like the first
everybody.
guy on the card is Brian and we're all on the same card, but Brian isn't there, but I'm on the card and Carson, do we get to go or how does that work?
So YOLO, it's only 2 hunters on the lottery. So it's just be me and you, Jeff.
Woohoo!
And then, so if I put us in, I do not have to be present for you to hunt the next day. And then
Gotcha.
for me to put you on our card, all I need is your name and go ID.
Okay.
And you guys are doing the lottery the day before? Is that still
Yeah.
the same? Okay.
Yep. So we do Friday night. We'll be here at the headquarters. So not at the check station. We do it at the headquarters office from 4 to 7. Saturday, we do the lottery at the check station for the Sunday hunt, and we'll just do it all day. And then for a Wednesday shoot day, we do it Tuesday night at the headquarters.
Gotcha.
What about a youth hunter with an adult? Is it still 2 per, or is it like if me and Brian wanted to bring our kids, is that 2 extra youth hunters? How do your guys' hunting parties composed?
Yeah, so you can just bring a junior hunter. They don't have to be on your lottery card. You can just add them in the morning.
Okay,
So each adult, can bring 2 juniors with them.
perfect.
What's the flooding look like for opener? How much you gonna have flooded for hunting?
It looks good. We are kind of basing quotas more so off of wetland acres, right? So we're the way I did the math, we stuck with our same quotas. So we have a fully flooded, we're at 75 for free roam. That's about 30 acres per hunter, pretty much the way that our wetland acres line out. So we're looking probably right around 55 or 60 for opener.
Good.
And then all the blinds will be flooded.
Perfect.
Will the rice be open for opener?
The rice is all flooded. It's open.
Nice.
Did you mention that you guys were going to put some rice blinds out there, or is that still all just go to the levee and hunt wherever you want?
It's currently right now, it's still just you're hunting off the checks or bring a portable, and hunt in the middle. There's a lot of stubble out there. There's water grass, so you can actually, hunt pretty well out there in a portable. But
Yep.
The plan right now, so we proposed it. We're doing a spring hunter meeting, kind of like a working group meeting where everyone comes to the office and we sit around a table and just talk shop about the hunt program and ways we can improve habitat, ways we can improve the blinds. And that was something we did roll out this year, was an idea to pretty much take everything from parking lot H all the way up to the rice and convert it all to, space blinds or assigned ponds. And so part of that would be adding rice blinds in the rice and then taking the Greens Lake natural and converting that to assigned ponds, and adding some stand-up blinds out there. So based on my math and looking at it, it would add about 30 hunters to our total capacity.
Oh,
so
nice.
It would be a way to get some more folks out there. And again, in my experience, I think, I think a good balanced hunt program is ideal. Good blinds, good assigned ponds, good free roam. I think that's the best way we keep people coming to the wildlife area and keep people hunting. So having, the guys that don't want to hunt a blind, but maybe the assigned pond option is more up their alley, or, folks that just want to hunt free roam. We got a lot of free roam. We got big area. So I think adding some rice blinds and doing some assigned ponds is something that could help the hunt program.
What do you think some of like the the biggest challenges that you guys have faced this last year and then potentially will face, in this duck season or next spring?
Right now, probably the biggest challenge we have here is staffing.
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 permanent employees for 17,000 acres that are in the field.
You have
Jeez.
2?
So 2, yeah.
How many techs?
We have 2 seasonals that are out in the field, and then I have 1 limited term.
Wow.
So for the mowing, the disking, the spraying, everything we have to do on this area, it's a lot. So I think getting a couple more folks, trained up on equipment would be a huge help. And I think we have a lot of opportunity at this wildlife area to do some special things. And I think having the staff to do it, would be very helpful. Because right now staff do a great job. They're dedicated to what they're doing. They're into it. It's just, it's time. And we only have so much time in a field season to get everything done. So increasing our staffing would be a huge help for us to improve our habitat management and just general management of the wildlife area.
Historically, like, it probably wasn't that low. Historically, like, what has been full staff at that refuge?
When the refuge was originally established, it was only like 3,500 acres.
Okay.
And then they added on the Thule Ranch, so it really never got added staffing from its original 3,500 acres.
Got it. That makes
So
more
previously, maybe we had a tractor operator, right, a TOL position that we don't have anymore. So you're really only talking probably 1 or 2 more full-time positions, when we were fully staffed. So, for us to keep up with everything going on here, we need the permanent staff that can learn the wildlife area. Our water system is, like I said, we're running probably 95, 98% of our water is coming from lift stations. And when you look at how you would manage your water, I mean, coming from where I came from, where it was primarily all surface water, we're running water east to west, south to north. It's just completely backwards, and it's all set up and how it was farmed historically, with these deliveries. So it's a tough system, and then we're 10 miles long, almost 22 square miles. So if you're running from the rice up north and trying to get down to the Martins or Firemen's, that's a 45-minute trip. So having the staff to kind of be able to manage all those different systems, and each management block is really run off of a different lift station that kind of irrigates it. And then we also have internal lift stations that are changing that water up that's coming from the tow drain. So it's a pretty complicated system. So having more staff to help manage that would be awesome.
What are some of the other opportunities? Pheasant hunting, potential opportunities for other things like
late season
turkeys,
dove hunting. Yeah, there's
dove hunting. I mean, what are other things hunters can do out there?
So we do our dove season, the early dove. So September 1 through the 15th. Pretty much we open up most of the hunting area. We don't open the rice just because we're farming that. And then some of the upland and pasture ground where our cattle lease is, we'll keep some of that closed. But dove season is pretty popular. We kind of get hit hard the first couple days, and then it really drops off. But it's a good opportunity to get out, see the area too. We do have 2 mentored spring turkey hunts. We're trying to probably expand that a little bit. I mean, the biggest issue we have is flooding. So if we flood late into the spring, the turkeys really aren't going to come off private and get on the wildlife area. So this past year, we bumped the hunt back. It used to historically be the junior weekend. We bumped it back into early April. Turkeys showed up. It was a great hunt. In a situation like that, we could have definitely done another weekend or 2 and had pretty good opportunities for kids. So that's something I'd like to probably expand on. Pheasant hunting is pretty good. I think last year they harvested like 304 wild birds.
Oh, wow.
On the wildlife area.
That's great.
So
John
there's a
Carson,
ton of pheasant hunting
all those,
opportunity.
yeah.
Lot of uplands, and what we do is, so on top of our free roam quota, we also have an upland only quota. So we add 20 additional hunters out into the field that are only hunting upland, so dove or pheasant. So there is some additional opportunity there, just mainly because the demand is there for pheasant hunters.
Nice.
So I got some other things in the hopper. I think we definitely have a pretty decent blacktail deer population. That's something we've talked about doing, is trying to open up some type of a mentored deer hunt during the A-zone season. So that's some things that hopefully we can do in the future.
That's great, man. Well, you ran an awesome hunt program up at SAC, and looks like you're doing great things down at Yolo. Is there anything that hunters and just wildlife enthusiasts anything else that they should know coming out to Yolo this year?
I think everything you're going to see pretty much the same, except for those couple things for the hunt program I mentioned. Quotas, all that's going to be the same. I'd say the one thing for the hunting community and then any wildlife enthusiasts that like coming to Yolo is really just the support for what we do. We got kind of a changing landscape right now, and the support of these managed wetlands is really important. That what we're doing, managing shallow flooded wetlands is very important for migratory birds. So I think continuing that support from the hunting community and wildlife enthusiasts is going to be very important moving forward for this wildlife area.
Right on. What do you think? Good duck season?
If it gets cold.
Hey,
Cross your fingers.
Yeah, birds are always here. It seems like just need to get that cold.
Cold weather and north wind, I think will be good.
Well, we're at La Nina this year, right?
Yeah,
We'll
Who
see.
cares?
We'll see. Just need the cold. Give us the
cold weather.
Well, Garrett, man, I appreciate you coming on, and hope to connect with you later in the season and kind of get an update of what's going on at the refuge.
Yeah, sounds good, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Sounds
Awesome. Thanks,
good.
Garrett.
Where are you going Saturday? You working?
Grizzly.
The Grizz?
You're going to Chris?
Oh,
Yeah, I'll be getting in line after drop my kids off at school and head on up.
got you resi or
I
lottery?
got a resi, but Grizzly's the last place where that only
Yes.
tells you what line you're in.
Yeah, lots of guys already there. Who are you going hunting with?
Just me.
Solo?
Yeah. Been asked a few people, but nobody else wanted to go fight the skeeters, I guess.
Gonna get some intel from Kevin and Orlando. Where to go?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll try and hit up Orlando. Hey, buddy, humble classmates.
Give the secret high five and be set, man. Now we're welcoming Sean Brophy, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Deputy Project Leader at San Luis Natural Refuge Complex. So he's down in the grasslands. Sean, we want to welcome you to the podcast, and we're excited to talk about what's going on down there, how are the ducks, and what's new at the complex.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. What's the water situation looking like down there? You guys full flood, half flood? What are we looking at for opener?
So yeah, out of our complex, we manage San Luis National Wildlife Refuge and Merced National Wildlife Refuge and San Joaquin River National Wildlife Refuge. For Merced, we're looking pretty good. We've only got 2 blinds that are not quite there yet for opener. They're close, so I think by next weekend they'll be open. That'd be 9A and 15. San Luis free roam is basically fully flooded except for the river zone, which we don't control, and the river is low because it's been dry for quite a while. But all the managed wetlands for the San Luis free roam are fully flooded. The Blue Goose unit is fully flooded, and the Kesterson unit is fully flooded. And North and South Freitas, there the river does have good water, and so that'll be a full opener for quota as well.
Wow.
Sean, how does the river units work? Because aren't they just like you have to go check in at a refuge station on shoot days, but they're also open on the non-shoot days? Like, what's the deal with that?
On a non-shoot day, they're just open to hunt, and then on Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, you do either need a reservation or to get on the list at the check station. So for South Freitas, that goes out of the Salt Slough check station on Wolfson Road. North Freitas goes out of the Kesterson check station.
Gotcha. Okay. In terms of duck numbers down there, have you guys seen an influx with the weather and the north winds? I know we lost a lot of birds up in our area. It's starting to kind of come back now, but what's the situation looking like?
Yeah, so for ducks, we definitely we start flooding up Kesterson in August, and we always see that early August pintail influx, which we got this year. And yeah, we have seen some more birds. I've seen more teal and more shovelers showing up. We're starting to see more white fronts, kind of appearing on the landscape here. So yeah, we're definitely starting to pick up birds. Right now, all the clubs or many of the clubs are flooded, and the state and federal areas are fairly flooded, so they're kind of spread out all over. So obviously the deck will get reshuffled on Saturday.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say, definitely compared to some of the drought years, I'm seeing more birds around early and birds spread out across a wide area using a lot of different places.
Is there any new changes coming to the areas that you manage, such as blinds in locations they weren't in before, new blinds being placed, stuff like that?
Yeah, so this year, under the Great America Outdoors Act, we were able to replace basically all of the pit blinds on Kesterson National Wildlife Refuge. The previous year, using our Goya-funded strike force, we fabricated and replaced all the stand-up blinds. And San Luis Free Roam, we also replaced all of the blinds in the San Luis Free Roam. And a lot of those blinds were like 60 years old. So nice. Way overdue, very appreciated. So yeah, with that opportunity, we did move some blinds to areas that we thought would be better. We worked with the CWA Grasslands Hunter Committee, took their input, and where we could, implemented that. Kesterson, we moved blind 3 a bit to where I always kind of felt like it should be, where it's not in line with blind 3A, and it's kind of back in its own bay that gets a lot of bird use. So we've published updated maps to our website that shows new blind locations that are accurate. So a lot of them, it was just, within pond adjustments when they got placed 40 years ago, it might have been the right spot then, but there's a better spot now. So where we could use those opportunities with the knowledge of our staff that hunts out there, our water managers, myself, we're waterfowl hunters. We hunt these units, and working with our local hunter committee, we were able to, I think, make some good adjustments people appreciate. So yeah, that was a real major project, and great to get all those blinds replaced and new stools, new lids, newly rebuilt blind islands. So big improvement there.
That's great. Congrats on that. I know a lot of hunters complain about some refuges not, deteriorating blinds, blind stools, might be a block of wood or whatever. So I know the public guide definitely thanks you guys for that. The last couple of years as a wetland manager has been pretty tough with the droughts. Has anything in the last year come up? Any big challenges that you guys have faced down there coming out of the drought?
Yeah, I mean, like West Bear Creek and East Bear Creek are always challenges. West Bear, to the final delivery point, we're pushing water almost 11 miles through earthen ditches. That's a long way to try and shove water. So it makes flood up a challenge. With the Goya funding, we have installed, we basically rebuilt the main canal system for West Bear and San Luis, new structures. So that's definitely helping, but it's still 11 miles of gravity feed in an earthen ditch. So
That's crazy.
Some of the units at West Bear that really are kind of sandy by the river, like Fiddleneck, are always a fight to get flooded up. East Bear, we really can't get water there until in November. So my first delivery date for this year is November 4th. The unit's supposed to open the third weekend in November. So that one's kind of been delayed the last few years, and that's just the nature of where the pumping plant is and the water supply that's available to it.
I mean, what are you personally looking forward to this waterfowl season? You're a hunter, you hunt the refuges. It sounds like your staff is too. Are you guys excited for the new blinds, new units, wetland management practices, etc.?
I am, yeah. Over the past 7 years with Ducks Unlimited and California Waterfowl Association, we've implemented a number of habitat improvement projects basically across the entire complex. So we've, at this point, basically completely rebuilt the East Bear Creek unit and the Blue Goose unit for San Luis National Wildlife Refuge. We've made enhancements at Merced. So we're able to get a real improvement both in water efficiency and water flexibility. So with some of these things we've done, we can move water in multiple ways. We can be a lot more creative and flexible with how we move water. So our management capability is really kind of taken. A lot of these projects went in the late 90s, and then in these last 7 years, we've kind of taken that next step across quite a few of our units. So, and that wouldn't have happened without our partners, particularly Ducks Unlimited and California Waterfowl Association. So the Mariposa unit of Merced, which is the blinds 10 through 15, is solely flooded up from groundwater. It's always been a real challenge, and the NACA project, How Waterfowl Completed, has made our flood up much easier this year. We're still, blind 15 isn't flooded because we had the well go down. You can't avoid that. That's an endless battle. But the efficiency of how that unit flooded is greatly improved. So it's just really exciting to see all of these projects kind of come to fruition, and as a manager, enjoy the benefits of having new flexibility.
Is there any other options for hunters to go out and pursue other game on the refuges other than waterfowl, pheasants, dove, any of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, on Kesterson, we have in the main hunt blind area, we have a 1-day pheasant hunt that's the first Monday of the pheasant season. And then we have about an 800-acre pheasant area between the Kesterson blind area and the San Joaquin River that's open all of pheasant season. And then on San Luis, it's also open to pheasant hunting during the season. So yeah, there is good amount of pheasant opportunity out there.
When are you guys going to open up the elk tags?
Well, there's a lot in the hills. Yeah, that'd be for those that don't know, we have a 760 acre enclosure that we have an elk herd within. So it'd be a Texas style.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park.
Well, I was younger. I was probably 12 years old, and then we hunted down there. And at that time, I've never even seen an elk, let alone like literally knew much about them. And we're driving around. I think it was an auto tour or something. It was like boom. There's just like a big bull sitting right outside of the car. I was like, oh my gosh, there's elk out here. Like, oh yeah, you know.
Yeah.
It was just cool to see. And if people haven't been out there, just to go look at them, it's pretty cool.
How are the
Yeah, August and September is usually when the rut peaks for the elk. So if you come out at that time, you'll hear the elk bugling, and often from the elk tour route, you'll see them fighting, herding the cows. So it's pretty neat to see
awesome.
just from your car.
how was the nesting habitat down there in the grasslands this year?
It was decent this year. We were able to manage brood water across several of our units. The East Bear Creek unit, Swan Lake, and the Freitas, some areas of the Freitas. 2023 was pretty banner with the flooding for
Right.
duck nesting in the grasslands. I mean, we had water everywhere way late into the year, but this year we were able, where we have the opportunity to do managed brood water, we did have it, and we did see, brood production, mostly gadwall and mallards. And,
Good.
it's nice in July when you see those first big flights of mallards as they fledge and start buzzing around trying to figure out how their wings work. You start seeing those flight lines establish, and that's
Yep.
always nice to see.
Good.
Sean, is there anything that you would like the hunter or wildlife enthusiast to know about the refuges, coming up towards the season?
I would say probably the biggest thing is, the refuges are real highly subscribed early in the season. Of course, during November, things kind of slow down. That's a great time to come out and really learn the refuge and spend time exploring. And there's afternoon mallards out there to have fun with. So if you're not real familiar with our areas, November is the time to learn them.
Yeah, you talk about mallards. I saw this was a report a number of years ago, but the refuges down there shot overwhelmingly more mallards than all of the private clubs down there. And it was the refuges that shot and held the mallards, and it was pretty surprising.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. It's not as much as it used to be. I think a lot of us know the story of the decline of the breeding population of mallards, but we do still have breeding populations of mallards that are here, year round. And that is one of my favorite things to do, those November afternoons when it's quiet, and just go out in the free roam with your binoculars and look around and have fun calling in mallards without much pressure.
Yep. Don't tell everybody. No, we just appreciate you coming on. We'd love to have you back on, but leaving us with your final words. I mean, what's the number of, like the population of birds that you're seeing right now compared to past years? Is it higher, or is it lower, or about the same?
I would say probably about the same, higher than drought years, definitely. Although later in drought years, the last drought, we went from one of our highest harvest seasons in 2023 to one of our lowest last year with more water. So that was certainly interesting to see some of our units have like their lowest historical averages, like Merced, on years where we had great water, great habitat conditions, tons of food everywhere. Those birds were just real spread out. Obviously in the grasslands, when the teal come in is when things really get hot, and these long, hot Octobers and Novembers make it real hard to keep the algae from building in the ponds. They make it hard to maintain flood up. It's, when the weather just doesn't break forever, it makes it tough on all fronts. But yeah, I think, this year's looking pretty in line with, sort of the average year, and better than kind of the core drought years.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right about those hot temps and stuff, man. It's just hard to manage stuff. and get it looking how you want when the weather doesn't cooperate. Earlier this month you had those 100-degree days like for a week, and it really put a damper on things up here for us. But
Good for the rice, though.
it was good for the rice.
Yeah, when it's 89 degrees at Thanksgiving, wetland managers are ripping their hair out.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. Well, Sean, appreciate you coming on today, and would love to have you back on later in the season to kind of give us an update.
All right. Thanks for your time today.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Save It for the Blind podcast. You can find our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.